Hey, it's Jared with State of Tech. Today we're going to take a look at some different keyboard options for the iPad mini. Now, of course, these keyboards are going to work for pretty much every iPad, with the exception of one that is a keyboard case. But the idea here is having a keyboard that you can use with your iPad to make it easier to type, because the iPad mini is relatively small and it's kind of hard to tap on the screen. So having a keyboard for when you need to respond to emails, write out something longer form, having a keyboard is an excellent option. So what we're looking at here is my Keychron K3 keyboard and MX Anywhere mouse. I talked about this setup when I did my iPad mini accessories video, and this is typically my go-to when I have time at home or in my office. And, likely I'm not going to carry this K3 keyboard around with me. The mouse, sure, but the K3 keyboard, probably not. So when I'm at my desk, I can use this K3 keyboard from Keychron to connect to my iPad, and it also allows for me to connect to two other devices, and I can switch between those just by holding down the function key and choosing 1, 2, or 3. You can see the Bluetooth icons there. So I can pair this keyboard to my laptop, I could pair it to my iPad, and I also have it paired to my PC as well. So just three-purpose right there out of one single keyboard. And this keyboard is pretty good. I like that it has kind of like a clickiness to it, and it's a nice keyboard. It has different color options, and so we're going to do a little bit of a test here just to see which keyboard really feels the best for typing. So let's start with the Keychron. So the keys that are in this particular keyboard are less clicky than what you'd probably see in most gaming keyboards, or what people would put in a gaming keyboard. You can configure this keyboard with a lot of different options as far as the switches go, and so you can go from really clicky to less clicky. This particular keyboard is less clicky, and I just like the feel of it. I like having a little bit of that tactile feedback and the clickiness without it being so loud that it's obnoxious. So let's go ahead and set this keyboard aside. I'm going to power it off and move it to the side. And we're going to move to another keyboard here that I got off of Amazon. This keyboard is from Arteck, A-R-T-E-C-K. So I'll go ahead and power it on. I've already Bluetooth paired it to my iPad. So we'll just hit return and we'll do a little bit of typing. So what this keyboard also has is some different color options, and so I can toggle through those. It has F key buttons at the top, and this keyboard's going to work with Mac or PC even, and then as well it does work with the iPad. All the keyboards that I'm looking at today work cross-platform. Mac, PC will also work with the iPad. But what's cool here is that I can also change the colors, and so I just have to use the function key and I can toggle through the colors. So not bad. This keyboard is relatively thin. As you can see, it's about as thin in this portion as the iPad mini is itself, but it does get thinner towards the main portion of the body here. So this keyboard's plastic. It's a little flexible. It might not survive going in a bag if your bag can allow it to twist a little bit. So this keyboard, it's not super durable. I would definitely be careful with it, but it's inexpensive and it charges via micro USB. Very simple keyboard. So let's move on to the Logitech keyboard. So this is a Logitech travel keyboard, also a little flexible, but not in the same way where you have these keys that you might have to worry about them popping out of the body or something like that. It also charges with micro USB, so we'll go ahead and power it on, and then it's connected, and we'll go ahead and do a test. So this keyboard has it feels interesting. Everything is kind of flat with barely any raise to it. Of course, it has two little bumps here so that you know that you're on the appropriate home row placement for typing. But what's interesting about this is as you type, it kind of squishes into the body, and it kind of feels like you're typing on like a firm pillow or something like that. I don't really know how to explain it. It's a weird experience. Now, the reason that I ordered this one is because it's from Logitech, and Logitech makes good stuff, and it's super thin, thinner than, well, I don't know. I'd say it's probably a little bit thinner than the iPad is itself. And I felt like something like this would really do well in a bag because there aren't any keys that can pop off. I mean, as long as you're not folding this thing in half or really putting too much stress on it, it's probably going to survive going in your bag, getting tossed in a bag. You know, it's a pretty durable keyboard. Now, the problem that I have with it, though, is that it just is not enjoyable to type on. And so as I continue to type here, it's not as bad as typing directly on the screen. So if I was typing directly on the iPad screen, that's not that great of an experience. So this is definitely better than that. It's just the squishiness is a little weird, and I feel like you really have to be lined up and you have to be good at typing and not be kind of like a hunt and peck typer like I am, because you don't have the edges of the keys, much of the edge of the keys to feel and really know where you're going. So a little bit more challenging to use, a little bit more expensive of an option in comparison to the Arteck keyboard and the last one that we're going to look at, but nonetheless still a great option. If I had to choose so far for a travel keyboard, I would choose the Logitech just because I feel like I wouldn't have to worry about it as much as the other keyboard. So our last keyboard is a keyboard case. I'm going to go ahead and pop our iPad out of the case that it is currently in, and we will slide it into this other keyboard case. So this keyboard case, pretty simple. Just slide the iPad in like so. Get it in there. There we go. Awesome. And it also has space for the Apple Pencil. Huge win there. So we'll go ahead and drop the Apple Pencil into place. And we're ready to go. I just need to power this guy on real quick. And there we are. This keyboard has such tiny keys. I mean, just to compare against the Arteck keyboard, the keys are significantly larger on the Arteck keyboard, and then of course on the Logitech keyboard even larger. And so these keys are just really tiny. And this is the problem with a keyboard case, because a keyboard case is supposed to be the size of the device so that it folds up nicely. And so, you know, if we go back and kind of put this back in its place, which it holds in magnetically, which is kind of nice, we close the iPad and then we close these devices like so. It's nice that this folds up, as you can see here. You know, it folds up nice, no problems at all. I can carry this around and have everything in one nice little package. But then, you know, I have to pull it out, and then I've got to pop the keyboard down, and then I've got to drop the iPad into place, and maybe that's too straight up and down for me. I don't know. I mean, if I'm sitting at a desk, like, this is not a good angle for me. I want the iPad to be at a bit more of an angle, so I'm gonna have to slide the keyboard down a bit, which is now making it teeter on the case. As you can see here, it's teetering a little bit, so I might decide to kind of move this down even further and pull it off of the iPad altogether. Well, then I've got this kind of flopping up, and so I don't know, there's just no huge win here for me as far as the configuration. And then with the small tiny keys, I mean, thankful for autocorrect that can figure out what I was trying to say, because my fingers are hitting the keys next to the key that I intended to hit. So I don't know, for someone with small fingers, much smaller fingers, this would be a great option. And this would be a great option for someone who wants something that's all self-contained. That is, I think, you know, probably the benefit of this device. You know, it also has a metal back on it. And so this metal back, it definitely strengthens it and makes it magnetic. But I also don't like the keys rubbing against the face of my iPad. And I know that it is because I can kind of squish in on this a little bit, and I could feel the keys just ever so slightly hitting the iPad. And so you'd want to make sure that you had a screen protector on your iPad if you were going to use a case like this. So this is not my favorite configuration for several reasons. One being the tiny keyboard that's really tricky to use. And the second thing, it's the way that you would store it is not my favorite either, in having to have the keyboard resting up against your iPad. I just don't like anything like that pushing up against the screen. So back in the case that I had it in prior, with the mouse, with the Logitech keyboard, this is most likely my travel setup right here. We've got the Logitech keyboard, we've got the Logitech MX Anywhere mouse, and we've got the iPad mini in whichever case you find fancy. This is the folio, like kind of fake leather case from DTTO. I'll link to it down in the description below. And I also did a video on the topic of iPad mini cases that you can check out. I'll link to that as well. So that's going to do it for this video. Have you paired your iPad mini up with a keyboard before? If so, what kind of keyboard did you use? And if you have any keyboards that you thought were cool and you want me to check those out, I'd love for those recommendations down in the comment section below. But give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel here on State of Tech so that you can be notified when I put out new videos. That's going to do it for today. Hope to see you back in the next one. Take care.